The B-52 bomber has arrived. Welcome everybody back to the hunt, and today we shall be hunting the Bazelgeuse. One of the most fan favorite monster in the New World. Probably one of the most well-designed monster too in the New World. Right on top there with Otogary and Nergante. Fuck you, Trevor, I'm right. Bazelgeuse is an incredible monster. It's done super well and has a ton of inspiration. And I don't think it has a lot of common with like the animal kingdom, which is weird to say. And there's a lot of things to talk about the Bazelgeuse. First of all, its main gimmick, the fact that it's literally a suicide bomber. It's a phenomenal gimmick. It's just an amazing way to develop a monster's personality, dynamics, fighting potential, and it's just done super well. Unfortunately here, I'm not fighting really well. I'm not really good at the longsword, but you know what? I'll be doing what I can. First of all, if we're gonna talk about the Bazelgeuse, we gotta talk about the number one thing about it, which is its roar and its theme. So first of all, it's an invader monster, meaning that it will disrupt most fights in high rank whenever you are on the map doing investigations or optional missions, which is great. It's honestly fantastic. At the same time, it is disruptive, and it's an aggressive monster, and it might just kill you from simply out of nowhere. And the worst thing you will ever hear in this game is this theme whenever you're on a quest in high rank. That stuff is literally terrifying. The pickled theme is quite obnoxious too, and quite terrifying, but I think that Basil hits a certain note that's just a little bit more grating. And also, you get a lot of stuff during the Basil quest that just makes you wonder a couple of things. Can you see it? Can you see what's about to happen here? You can't. Welcome to Bazelgeuse quest. Because this man is about to die. So what you just saw right there was a usual Basil quest. What you just saw right there was what we call in the business a get dunked scrub. Also, that's just, yeah, that's bullshit. So Basil has a lot of elements that can make him a really hard monster for first-time players like me, for example, and especially so if you have to be in melee range, and then especially if you have to be a close range weapon, a short range weapon. Oh, that's fucking bullshit right there for that Spirit's Iron Slash. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the fact that its scales are explosive. And what's super dangerous about this is that they can both activate on impact or can activate after a certain attack from Basil or yourself, depending on if it's in rage or not. So, for instance, right now the Basil is in rage, so you can see that its scales are glowing red. And once that happens, if the scale drops on the ground, like so, what just fucking happened, you're instantly dead. Oh, that's a lot of bow. So how your typical Basil experience will go is that you'll be hunting the thing, it'll instantly enter the rage state, state as you go in for an attack. As you're right under him, he drops a scale from one of his animation, and you're instantly dead, just instantly. And that's super annoying, like super annoying, but that's what Basil is. He has a lot of mechanics and gimmicks that can be considered extremely annoying, and at the end of the day, I think it's fine, but I think they can be accentuated to be a little worse. And there's a big reason why I prefer original Basil over Seething Bazelgeuse, which is its variant that we'll see back in Master Rank. And it's unfortunate to say that, first of all, Seething loses the Invader status, which is pretty big. And second of all, Seething has even more area of denial abilities that original Basil doesn't have. And it makes it not worse, but area of denial, especially in World, seems to get a lot of hate and flack. And you know what? For some of Basil's ability, original Basil, I'll give him that. Like the bullshit that you just saw. I basically died 3 times in a row from random ass fucking bullshit. Well, 2 times out of the 3 faints were random ass bullshit, and nobody can argue with that. Nobody can argue with this. Are we clear? Also, I didn't understand what the counter didn't activate there. And essentially, again, which is strange because the more you're under Basil, the harder the fight is. So if you're a longsword user, especially, and you're fighting Basil for the first time, you'd be tempted to go for the tail, at least. That's what I was back in the day. And going for the tail is extremely dangerous. So you're like, okay, let me aim for something else. Let me aim for something like, I don't know, the legs. And the legs are just as dangerous! The problem is, every time you're under Basil, you're far much more likely to die, which is why ranged weapons are heavily recommended for this fight in particular. If I were to be perfectly honest, I think if you're a blunt weapon user, so your hammer, your hunting horn, I think you'd be fine, or at least having an easier time in this fight. If only for the fact that you're aiming for the head. And there's a lot of moves where Basil doesn't have a lot of range. Oh, fucking balls. Ah! There's a lot of move where Basil will simply, if you aim for the head, Basil will have a lot of moves where you'll step forward as he goes into you. And he only has one range attack, and that's his fireball attack. That's it. So having a blunt weapon isn't a terrible idea because you'll stay out of range because you won't be under the big the scales. And while he does have a few throwing moves that can throw out scales in front of him, they're so far telegraphed that you most likely won't be hit by that. So honestly, if you want my best advice of fighting Bazelgeuse, it'd be stay in front of him. The worst thing you can potentially do is stay under him, which is why I kind of love Basil also. Is that as annoying as he is for having these kinds of abilities and staying under him being a death trap, while almost, I want to say 95% of the other monster roster is unlike him, where staying under him is actually, or under them, is usually the more simpler, better, safer option. For Basil, it's the opposite. You have to stay in front of him in order to have a better time. Staying at the sides is just as dangerous as staying under him also, which is why I'm saying, please just stay in front of him. It just makes the fight a lot easier. If you have a long reach, it also makes it a little bit easier. You gotta stay careful around him. You gotta watch out for if he's exhausted most of its scales, meaning if he can come in for a lot of close damage. If you exhaust a bunch of scales, you'll have the ability to basically not nullify, but essentially have an opening to go in and deal a bunch of damage. You have to say, and Basil also teaches you a lot about enraged statuses, meaning that you'll know and have a better shot at understanding when a monster is in range. And that's one of the more present examples in the world where you instantly know when a monster is in range or not, just by looking at the monster. You can see that a lot of monsters have like puffs of smoke coming out of their noses and stuff like that, which is a really cool detail. So for example, if you look at Otto Garen when he's in range, right? After you eat some meat, you'll see that smoke is puffing out of his mouth really rapidly. You can see that his color's changing just a tad, but I love the complete and very clear distinction of Bazelgeuse. Also, that move, the B-52 move, is just incredible what he just did. He's known for this, and sure as hell, he deserves all the credit for that. He's done so wonderfully. And if I have to say something about his invader status, which a lot of people are conflicted about, I think he's a better invader than Pickle. Yes, he's aggressive, yes, he's disruptive, but Pickle is too aggressive. Basil will come in, disrupt the fight, he'll throw some bombs in, he'll even deal some damage to the other monster, which is incredible, by detonating his bombs on it. But he won't chase you around the map for 20 minutes. Basil comes in, he drops some few bombs, and he leaves. Fucking Pickle, on the other hand, if you don't know who Pickle is, that's the Devil Joe. If you fight fucking Pickle, Pickle will stay in the map for extended period of time. So Basil does a lot more as an invader. That's a lot better, which is disruptive rather than chasing, and that's just overall better. And a lot of folks would say to me otherwise that it's wrong. You shouldn't believe in that. But trust me when I say that Basil was just overall done way, way, way better. And that's okay. For that matter, outside of that, he has a lot of lore and college that can be interesting to come at. But then again, if you want to truly have the easiest time with him, go in with the blunt weapon, stay in front of him. Make sure you trap him as well if you have the possibility to do that. Don't forget to flinch him if you have Iceborne at the Clutch Claw. That's really amazing. And overall, it's just a fantastic fight. I think there's a lot of bullshit elements in it that can be circumvented with a little bit more, maybe not careful design, but maybe taking the time to figure these things out to be a little more clear. And from there, move on to do some, you know, better move patterns, perhaps. If you want to have the king of fighting this thing, a ranged weapon is obviously best if you want to avoid damage, especially for a naked run. But he truly shows some flaws as to some bullshit hit detection and hit abilities. I guess that's the best way I can potentially describe Bazelgeuse. Outside of that, what a fantastic creature design. You could compliment Monster Hunter creature design for days, and I say will. It's fucking amazing. And it, oh goddamn. This Bazelgeuse, man. Lots of bullshit have been thrown at me today. But the hunt is done. The creature captured. Oh my god. What an annoying little fuck. What a stupid little motherfucker. Fucking fuck you. That's super annoying. Jesus Christ. Alright, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all on the next hunt.